Now we are moving to our next speaker. And this speaker is Lia Key, founder of Valencia Key Jewelry. And you can see some facts from Lia Valencia's very colorful biography. The motto Lia was following was, never leave the house without wearing your sparkling earrings. They will serve as reminders of the light within, which she received from her mother. And Lia has an amazing story really to tell you. She was featured recently in Ofra magazine 2020 favorite thing issue. She appeared in many very important publications. She was featured in many very important publications, and her achievements are simply incredible. Without saying more, it's my pleasure to pass the microphone now to Lia Valencia Key. Please. Can you unmute your...
Lia Valencia Key, from homeless to 100 million homes. Lia Valencia Key is the founder of Valencia Key Jewelry.
Her story is incredible. She's just light personified, and what she radiates is everything that you feel when you wear her jewelry.
After struggling to get her business off the ground and pounding the pavement to get the word out, Lia kept believing that her predicament doesn't determine her destiny. Lia Key Jewelry, which is all about igniting your light from within, has now been featured in O Magazine and the Oprah's Favorite Things issue, on Mel Robbins' show, and has been worn by many notable women, including Robin Roberts and more.
It's called Valencia Key.
Valencia Key? Are you in Valencia Key Designs? I thought so.
Lia passionately donates her time educating women in homeless shelters.
If you have a little bit of sparkle in your life and you have just a little bit of belief, magic starts to happen.
Lia is a living example that all things are possible when you believe it.
So sparkling indeed. Please, can you unmute your microphone, Lia? You have to unmute your microphone because we don't hear you yet.
Hi, that mute button is...
Welcome. Very sparkling.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I am truly honored to be here internationally. I just want to give every woman that is with us a big international hug, because the truth is we are one. And it is so beautiful that we can connect as creative women all over the world to continue to increase our sparkle, inspire our lights, and understand that the power of choice is literally life-changing. I'm so honored to be here to just share the beauty that, what is it to choose? I know that word choice is used quite loosely and not as serious as I'd love for us to really take a moment to dive into what is the power of choice. Well, I'd love to give you an example of how beautiful choice is by diving into my journey. My life didn't start as sparkly and as bright as you see me sitting here today. Truly, I was born in super humble poverty beginnings in the inner city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'd love to give a visual picture of the environment I was born in to understand what is possible when you choose and when you believe. I was born into a neighborhood that had drugs riddled on every street corner, violence breaking out in the middle of the streets, hopelessness, abandoned buildings, just a truly dark place. And then my predicament went from poverty to destitute when my wonderful mother, you'll hear a lot about my wonderful mother because I feel that she is one of the most intelligent women that I know, but she was riddled by fear and captivated by the lack of making major choices to break through certain bonds. But one beautiful choice that my mother was able to make was to speak life into her children. We went from poverty to destitute when my mother broke her leg in several places, which put us in a really rough predicament that she could no longer work to pay for any housing. I remember this moment vividly when my mother was bringing us home from school, my sister, my brother, and I, and we lived in this place that we called a home, but it was actually the basement one room of someone's home. It was just a 1-bedroom, but that was a place that was our home. And in this moment, we were walking towards it and found that there was a padlock on the door because my mother could no longer afford to pay rent. And at that time, it was obvious that we had no place to go. This was the most pain that I've ever seen in my life because I looked up at my mother as a young child and realized that we had no place to go. A mother and her 3 children not had belongings, not had a home, and the only decision that my mother could make was that we just ride a public transportation. So we rode on this public transportation, and my mother's trying to decide what to do in full tears. And one gentleman that was the bus driver finally walked over and asked, is there something that my mother could help her with? And she broke down in tears, looking up at this gentleman's eyes and said, we have no place to go. It's important for me to share that story because there's times in our life where we fall into a mode where we have nothing. And at that time, that gentleman pointed us to a homeless shelter. And I'd love to explain a woman's homeless shelter. It's this big gym room where there's mothers with little kids, and we only have one cot, and she's holding on to her family, and there's moaning and tears and emptiness and sorrow. But this beautiful part that I love to share is what clicked to me to start to understand a power of choice. In the midst of all of this sorrow and tears in my mother's eyes, she looked at her 3 children and said, your predicament does not determine your destiny. That was so beautiful, powerful words for me. So I need to understand where I was at that time. I was about 3rd grade, putting that in perspective, super young child being spoken into these powerful words of choice in the darkest predicament that one could probably experience, that my mother speaking now saying, understand that your predicament does not determine your destiny. That was the first seed of knowledge that clicked to me that there's a choice in life. We later on still stayed in this homeless shelter, and I start to follow my environment and start to become what I saw, all the negativity, all the challenges that were around me. I actually start to follow, and I start to fail in school. And my mother noticed this. And the second light that I love to say that unlocked the key of choice in my life was coming back to the homeless shelter one day. My mother stopped me and she said, Leah, do you want to be a follower or do you want to be a leader? Now, fast forward, I'm about in 5th grade, still a young child. I love giving that age recognition because it understands that even as a child, we can understand the power of choice. And if we put it in perspective in our lives, where we are today, no matter what your predicament is, when a light is clicked on in your life, you can understand the magnitude of choice. So my mother continued on and said, right now you're following. You're following your environment, Lia, and what you're going to become is your environment. Or, Lia, you can choose. That's that word. That's that beautiful word. You can choose. You can choose to define your destiny, Lia. You can choose your light. You can choose to see beyond your current predicament and follow all the greatness that's inside of you. So at that very moment, I took choice on like a badge of honor and like blood that ran through my veins, and I started to choose. I went back to school and I asked my teacher, how do I get better grades? How do I get after school activities? How do I find a way to my destiny? And through this choice, I was able to graduate in honors. I was the first and only person to get my graduate degree and master's in education. I chose so much. I got a United States patent. I chose to define my life, to find that creativity was my journey. And what I was understanding was that I was not just choosing these academic things, but I was actually choosing life. I was actually choosing light. I was actually shattering the bonds and the shackles of society's norms that was placed upon me, because I was given the understanding that my predicament does not determine my destiny, and that we all inside of us, there's a whisper of where we belong to be. There's a whisper that knows what our true light is. There's a whisper that says who we are in the world and that what we should radiate. And all we have to do is first listen, hear it. Second, acknowledge it to be true. Third, choose it. And in that power of choice, choice is an action word. I love my aunt. I do 3 pillars. My mother was the power of speaking words in my life. My grandmother was the power of prayer in my life. And my aunt was the power of action. And so my aunt used to tell me, so when you understand these beautiful words, realize what words are action words. And choice is an action word. When you choose something, then that means you define it and believe it to be true. And when you then believe it to be true, you start to point your sights into what actionable things you can do to make it become your destiny. And that's what I start to do. And then my mother, before she passed, my mother left this earth very early, but she left so many gems. And the last gem that she left in my heart was Lia. She saw me choosing and shining and choosing and sparkling and breaking and shattering glass ceilings. And she said, wow, you sparkle. You have this beautiful light inside of you, and always wear your earrings, because your earrings are the visual representation. Even when you forget, even when you're not sure, wear your sparkling earrings as a visual reminder that there is a light inside of you, and all you have to do is find it. All you have to do is choose it, and all you have to do is believe it, and you will shatter more glass ceilings in your life. And that's how I start to find this passion of the beautiful connection of these adorned wearable pieces of jewelry, that even when I forget my power of choice, if I have something that I'm wearing on my body that has a mission and a message that defines that all things are possible, I can always find it back in my life, and I can always go back to my power of choice. So through my choosing, my life just became still challenging in life, but abundant in light, abundant in the manifestation that start to come out of my life through me just pushing through what my predicament was. And I start to choose so much that I found myself, Valencia Key jewelry, creating it and bringing it to the world as these visual symbols. Valencia meaning brave, and key meaning to unlock. So creating these wearable symbols that we all can put on our bodies as adorning messages to remind us when our friends aren't there, when our mother is no longer with us, when we can't turn on the inspirational webinars. We can reach out our hands, we can touch our necks and say that this is possible. All things are possible. And if Lia Valencia Key can, then I can. I'd love to encourage and pour into everyone's heart today that there's a whisper in your heart. There's a beautiful destiny waiting for you to have, and it doesn't matter what your current predicament says right now. I ask you to choose it, believe it, and unapologetically run and push and decide all the way to all of your greatness. And I ask that you radiate and shine and inspire the world with me as we live our lives in the beautiful way that we are destined to be. I love you all so very, very much. Thank you for allowing me to shine into your heart.
Yeah, thank you so much for your amazing energy. I think we've been now energized for so many days ahead. And possibly weeks and months. Thank you so much. And of course, we are delighted that Creative Women Platform can start cooperation with you, and we'll have special, of course, offers for your beautiful jewelry to all our members and followers. And we are going to update everyone on how we connected to you and how to receive this special offers. Beautiful story. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll see you soon.